Welcome to episode 13 of the Puck Bunker. We are in for an emergency bunker session today. The state of our blood pressure is not good, and we need to get some things out here. Boyce, let's just, this is Darren Boyce, my co-host. If that's not plainly obvious.
Curmudgeon?
Well, we'll see. We'll see if you're in that title today. What the fuck are we going to do here?
Well, I don't know what they're going to do. The Team Canada this is the roster they chose. Like, it's not, there's nothing else to say. They chose a roster. They left some of their high-end offensive players at home, and they struggled to score against a lot of these teams. So basically the margin for error, I think they've made the margin for error much, it's much harder for themselves, to win. Obviously they lost last night to Latvia. So that's not good. I think they're better than that, but I mean, it's going to be tough. I mean, they could still win this tournament, Rocco. It's just, they're not going to crush anybody 7-0. It's going to be 3-2 games. And what I would worry about is they play United States, the U.S. gets ahead. Are they going to be able to come back? I don't think I don't think they have the guys to do that.
And that's my biggest issue with the makeup of the roster. And any single one individual player that made the team is a good player in their own right, but I feel like they just took too many of the same type of guy in the name of sacrificing true game breakers, which is what they lacked, which is why I think losing Schaefer puts them in so much trouble, because aside from Schaefer, McKenna, and to an extent sometimes Richie, who's going to break a game open for you when you're, like you said, when you're down and you need a goal?
So first of all, we'll talk about the defense. First of all, I'm going to say it's kind of noteworthy that they lost to Latvia and the goalie wasn't the problem. And now we can't, as the media, we can't blame the goaltending now that they lost, because that's usually what happens in these things, that they blame the goalie that they lost.
Ivan Kovic played very well.
He
stopped what, seven or eight shooters.
Yeah, but even in the game, none of the goals are his fault. They're power play goals.
Oh, it wasn't. He played great.
Played fine. So let's talk about their defense. So again, we talked about player selection. So just viewing some of, again, obviously, Twitter was on fire last night over this. I did see one person though mention that the way that they made their roster was they kind of brought two first pair, or guys who project to be first pair defensemen. They brought guys that project to be second pair defensemen, guys project to be third pair defensemen, instead of bringing maybe 4 or 5 guys to project to be a first pair defenseman in the NHL. That's kind of how they made their roster. I would agree with that. That is kind of what they did. The problem you have now is that one of their projected number ones is now gone, which we talked about earlier in the tournament. This is why you bring in a high level guy to be your extra defenseman. Because if this guy gets hurt, you're screwed. You're literally hooped now because they don't have anyone who can play like him.
No, and that's the biggest thing when we were talking about it. Again, at their selection camp when we went off about this, the two obvious names are Yakimchuk and Perek, right? My goodness, could the power play not use either of those guys right now?
Well, listen, if their whole thought process is playing Oliver Bonk on the power play as the point man and the quarterback, then Yakimchuk should have been on the team. If that's where we were at, because he doesn't even do that in London. And what's funny is Dickinson's on the team, and he that's what he does. So I don't understand.
Well, he's gonna have to take those. He's gonna have to take that role.
Are you sure?
Who else is going to?
Well, Oliver Bonk is currently doing it. So literally anyone who's on well, he shouldn't. No, but why is I don't understand why that was where we've gone the last 2 games to begin with. That's
because he's 19.
Well, that's again, you might be right. Bad logic though, and you've seen the results of that in the power play.
I agree, and my biggest thing is, and I have no problem at all building a roster to make sure that every scenario on the ice, whether that's power play, penalty kill, 5-on-5, up to down 1, whatever it is, every situation's covered, should be covered by guys on your roster. That said, like the one thing you can't leave out, you have to score goals to win. You have to.
So I'm just going to stop like for a second. I'm just going to say Oliver Bonk's a really good hockey player,
He
and he's
is.
a really good defenseman. He's
He'd be on
not
the
a
team no
power
matter
play
what.
quarterback. He's just being miscast. So anyone who's like criticizing his play other than that is fine. He just shouldn't be in that role. He plays the bumper on the power play in London. He's actually good at that. So if they're going to put him on the power play, that's probably where he should be playing. Now, again, this is a World Junior team for Canada. He's probably not the best guy to put there, but he can do that, and he does that quite effectively. Again, if we have if we were bringing a team and we had basically one power play quarterback, or we're just playing like basically they thought Schaefer's the power play quarterback and that's it. Like I don't know why. Then why are Parekh and Yakupchuk not there? That doesn't make any sense to me.
And you said it. You said it. I think when you said he's miscast, right? Like
Yeah.
Oliver Bonk would be on this team regardless, no matter what.
Yeah.
He'd be on the team. But they're just, I feel personally, most of that team is misslotted by a line.
Well, some of them are, but yeah, like that's it. Just like I don't understand kind of just some of those decisions. Like I'm just again, I'm just the man sitting in a bunker talking about it. But I mean, it's not my decision to make. I'm not the one who, is living and dying by it or, being fired in that. But I mean, I just don't, I fail to grasp that. Like Oliver Bonk's not an offensive, he's not really going to be an offensive defenseman. I wouldn't say
I think he's a two-way guy.
Yeah, he's a two-way guy. I mean, but he's not, I don't project like at least to me, I haven't never really projected to be kind of a power play guy in the NHL anyway, and he hasn't really been the top power play guy on his team.
No, and when you have guys like my thing, like they're lacking game break. Now that Schaefer's out there, like who's their game breaker?
Well, what defenseman's gonna actually like break out the puck and be again, there's guys that can make short good breakout plays. Even Dickinson again. Dickinson, I think, has offensive ability. But even last year, you and I talked about, like, I had some questions a bit of his offensive ability. Again, but he's good offensively on the power play, playing the point position. So,
well, like I said, I think he's going to have to they're going to have to give him a chance here. But like my biggest thing is now that Schaefer's out, you have no one on that back end who can dance. You look at.
Well, there's no one's going to scare the other team back there from behind her. Yeah.
Right. So you look at the Americans and Cole Hudson, he can dance. He's dangerous. He's magic with the puck, right? And he makes things happen. And now we didn't have a backup plan in case Schaefer got hurt.
I'll go a step further. We don't have a Logan Hensler on this team. We don't have anyone that can skate like that. And now again, we could talk about what he projects to be, but he gets the puck. Like he is dangerous because of his wheels. We don't have that guy.
Well, but we might not anyways, no matter who's on the team.
No, but we did. But I mean, still, it's just again like we're missing a certain portion of the game now that Schaefer's out. Like we're missing.
Now, and what does that say? Like, what does that say about the roster in general? That you're close to fucked because you lost one 17-year-old.
Again, they could still win the tournament, but
yes, but it's a lot. It's a lot harder than it was yesterday.
Yeah, well, it was a lot harder than it had to be when they made the selection of the team. That was the whole point. That a lot of the points that we made, and so, I mean, you could see this coming from a mile away too. Now they could beat the United States in a couple days. I mean, the United States aren't, again, speaking of their defense, I mean, they're not the highest of high-level defenders on that team. So I mean, Canada should be able to score a couple goals at least, but are they going to be able to stop them is the better question. Because I mean,
well, I think if Canada is going to have a chance to win gold, like a legitimate chance, there's one storyline that's going to have to take off, and it's going to be the absolute outstanding play of Carter George.
Yeah, and they shut everything down. Like that's going to be how they have to play, which is Dave Cameron hockey, to be honest. That's how he wants to play.
Well, he picked a bunch of shutdown forwards, so there you go. Have at it.
Yeah. So I mean, listen, the bad thing is that I'm surprised they lost to Latvia, but I'm not shocked they're struggling to score. Yeah, it's
Oh,
not. It's not shocking at all.
we talked about that pre-tournament that they left a full scoring line off the team in the name of two-way defensive depth, sort of, and now it's coming to roost a little bit.
So the last thing I'm going to say though is like again, these are bigger rosters too, so they actually could bring 2 extra D and 2 extra forwards, or I think because they can dress. So again, this goes into kind of the logic we were talking about, I guess, a couple episodes ago. Like, why do you not, if you're going to have maybe the 14th forward, why isn't he a guy you could sub into your top 6 role or your top pairing role if something happens to them? If that's really this is the route you wanted to go, why don't you cover yourself?
Well, the forward is Rekhov can step into a scoring role.
And no, I guess, but like, is he better than Michael Misa?
Nobody's better than probably a lot of the guys who are playing right now.
I mean, like, again, that's kind of the point, right? Like, Misa can play kind of everywhere on the ice very well. He can play it at a high level. He can play it in the third line if he needed to. Like, it seems like the perfect guy you could have brought in there.
I've been told he's just a one-dimensional forward, Darren.
Yeah.
That's what I've been told. But I don't like I watch him force turnovers and steal pucks all game long whenever he plays. And
he hits guys now, which we'll talk about a certain other draft eligible that doesn't seem to want to be physical at all.
Like we wouldn't think his skating might be valuable and dangerous on a penalty kill.
In every situation.
Yeah.
So
anyway, leading the OHL in 5-on-5 goals, but can't fucking crack training camp.
Yeah, can't make camp.
Did you see Parekh and Yakimchuk like the tweet last night about?
No, camp? I mean, petty, but like,
yeah, but I kind of like it. It's kind of funny.
And if you didn't hear the news today, now Schaefer's out 3 months, by the way.
So okay, so what is that? Does that
so if you want to? So maybe let's go into that. So that's
has he done enough for you to stay number 1?
Maybe for me, but it will impact draft boards. Absolutely.
He'll be back for playoffs, though.
We hope so.
Back for the U18s.
Will they play him in that?
In the U18s?
Playing the World Junior. They play in the World Juniors. They don't usually make Canada guys do that, do they?
Make them.
Well, make them, but they don't like. They would just like they don't kind of go backwards, right?
Well, might have to now because he got the chance to
maybe
himself taken away.
Maybe it's disappointing that he's out because he's been pretty much the best player in the OHL for the last month and a half.
Yeah, and he was their best player in game 1 and their best player for the 3 minutes he played yesterday too.
Yeah. So I mean, has he done enough? I mean, I think for me, he's done enough. I haven't seen enough from the other top guys to move them above him for first overall. Would I be surprised if he moves down boards because he doesn't play in the next 2 months? No, I wouldn't be.
Honestly, at least thank God it's a collarbone and not a shoulder.
Yeah, he can recover from that. Like it's shoulder injuries are tough because those
shoulders scary, man. They can linger.
They don't go away.
Right. Collarbone will heal at least. So I think that minimizes the impact it'll have on his draft status because he is going to come back. He'll get to play OHL playoffs, maybe the end of the regular season if he recovers quickly. He'll play U18s if he wants to, although he'll be in the playoffs, right? That could be a factor too. But he's going to get to play meaningful games and show that he's fine. For me, it's not going to change much, but what is going to change for me and who I'm going to eat a little humble pie. I might have been a little out to lunch there, ranking Martone ahead of Hagens. I think, oops.
Well, I did it too, but in different slots.
Yeah, well, we might have to fix that.
Well, I already have. So I've watched them both directly in this tournament and some of the pre-tournament games. And I've moved Hagens above Martone now because we've talked, well, at least I've maybe talked about it a bit more than you, is that I am very worried about his skating.
Yeah.
That really bothers me. And now you've kind of seen it, again, I'll call this an increased level. It's a problem. Like he's getting.
It's okay if you're playing like a power forward though.
Yeah, well, we'll get into that. We'll get into that.
He hasn't been doing that.
But he's a step behind on a lot of things. So and again, I'm not saying that he's, awful, but you'll watch, like, he has, so in the defensive zone, he's just kind of a step behind making a good play, or like he's a step behind, and the other team gets a pass through, takes a penalty because he's kind of a step behind a guy. Like, it just like, and that happens in the OHL too. And so, yes, I worry about that at the next level, especially when the game's faster. I mean, he's going to have to improve his skating if you think that he's going to be this, I think I like our projection, or at least my projection was like maybe low end, like a 700, 800 point player. Like if that's what you're looking for out of him, he's going to have to improve his skating. Like, he's going to have to be a better skater to be able to utilize the skills that he has. Now, the other thing I'll talk about, though, you said the physicality. Like, he is not hitting guys, and he is not, he is the one player on Canada, we said this in the pre-tournament episode, that can actually be a dominant physical player. And I think they need him
too.
Yeah, but they need Martone to be that guy. Like, they don't have, like, there's no one out there that's
really. He's not going to be that guy playing 7 minutes a night, taking dumb penalties.
No. And like, but like, that's a problem for them, because they need that element of their game, because they have a lot of smaller players. And so they need
what? Why are they picking the fucking smallest team that they can find?
Well, it's
seriously,
we're past that, but it could work a little better if they had a couple physical big guys who can dominate games just on their own. And that's, I think, what they were hoping that he would do. In the first 2 games, he has not really been physically, making the other team aware that he's there. I would like to see more physicality out of him. So for the first 2 games, I'm kind of disappointed in how he's played. But again, there's still time here that, he could have, some moments here, and they're going to need them if they're going to go far in this tournament.
Yeah. And I'm just going to come back to my original point. I think it's going to have to be on the back of Carter George the rest of the way. If they're going to go anywhere, they're going to have a sub-2 GAA, because I think they're going to really, really struggle to put points up on the board against especially these better teams, which is who really matters. The Latvia game is not what you want to see, obviously, and good for them. I don't want to downplay Latvia.
No,
they played their fucking hearts out, and a couple guys from the CHL were the goal scorers there, and those guys.
Their goalie played great.
Their goalie played great. So they're used to playing against these guys, and they stepped up, and good on them.
Not afraid of them, right? Like, this goalie's he plays at their level, right? This goalie, so he's not afraid of them.
No, exactly. And that's a huge moment for their country. But geez, that's not a good look for us. And what you hope the takeaway here is a giant wake up call. Sometimes you need to lose. Sometimes you need to lose a game that you have no business losing, and it'll get you going. And you hope that is the mentality they're going to take. It's like, oh shit, now we got to go prove it. We're not just Canada the Giant here. They need to beat the wheels off of Germany.
Well, you got to start by winning the game. I think it's just steps at this point, right?
If they win that game and it's close, it's going to be some nerves.
I think there's already nerves. They
right,
they lost to Latvia at home.
Right. Okay, that's fine. But if you go out and you put up a touchdown or better on Germany, 7-8, 9-1, something stupid, right? Lopsided. Then you're like, okay, maybe that lets you breathe this a little bit. But if it ends up being another tight game, that's going to be awfully scary going into New Year's Eve.
It is, but I mean, I think if they barely beat Germany and then beat the US, I think it's fine. If they barely beat Germany and then get clocked by the US, and then they're playing like a quarterfinal game against Sweden, this is it's going to end up being a disaster, basically. Which we don't want.
Which of our tiny forward lines is supposed to defend Leonard, Perreault, and Hagens? Really?
I don't know.
Who are you throwing out there to defend those guys?
Well, I mean, I would have had Matthew Schaefer on the ice the entire game against them, but I guess that's not reasonable anymore.
On to plan B.
Yeah. I mean, I would be playing Jet Luchenko more I mean, that would be one of my, like, he played under 10 minutes. And I mean, again, we're talking about, we've been harping about offense. Yes. I mean, he played in the NHL this year. He's got good offensive ability and he's a really good defensive player. Like, I think he's got the wheels to keep up with all those guys. Like, I think I would kind of maybe utilize him a bit more against, maybe moving forward in the tournament, especially if we're talking about it, maybe a guy who could match up against them. But
Yager would be probably the guy that they want to line up against him.
Yeah, which I don't know if that's smart, but
Catton could keep up, but he's more of an offensive player.
He's not as responsible as him.
No. So I'm kind of.
Well, we'll see what they do. We'll see. It's not our decision. We'll see what they do.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's not.
We just get to talk about it.
Yeah. If it was our decision, I'd probably have, 4 forwards under 6 foot and 9 above 6 foot, but they went with the other way around. But
I don't know if we had that possibility, but I mean, I would have definitely had a couple bigger guys there.
Well, Seineke's 6'3", 6'4", Misa's 6'1".
Yeah.
Those would be 2 of their 6 biggest forwards. Yeah. Misa would be one of their top 6 biggest forwards.
No, I'm aware. I'm aware.
Like, this is a small team because he's not a big guy.
And the perception is that he's small, which he's not. But
right. So if he's small, and he'd be our 5th or 6th biggest forward.
That says a lot.
It's a small ass team, dude.
All right, so let's talk about a couple other guys that kind of had a.
We got to move on.
Tournament here.
So enough said. We're still cheering for Canada. It's just scary now.
Well, again, we're hoping they win the next game and they kind of get some momentum that way. The U.S. games that'll be the big deal. The U.S. game.
Eric's, they call him the Moose. Moose Eric's Mateko. He's going to be getting to tell that story for the rest of his life, which is pretty cool for him.
Oh yeah, he's drafted, man. Like he's a
good player. He's a good player.
Prospect.
He's a very good player.
Yeah.
Okay, who else do you want to talk about here now that we're done griping about Canada?
Well, we could talk about Hagens. I don't know if you want to start or I can go, but I guess I'll just start. I think he's looked good. At least to start this tournament.
Yeah.
So previous in the, again, I still have some reservations again from previous things I've said. So I'll just start here. He's looked very good. The highlight reel looks great, which is not unusual with him. If you just look at the highlight reel, a lot of things he does very much stick out at you. He
does things that other guys are not.
Yeah, he does them at speed. So I really like that. So again, rewatching the game, the last game they played, the Germany game, there's still turnover flaws there, and there's still some decision-making issues. I will say I think it has improved since from the start of the year. I think he definitely has gotten better at it.
Yeah.
Now Germany's definitely a lower level team than he will have probably most college teams. So I mean, that's take that with a grain of salt. But I mean, that was noteworthy. But again, I'll take the gripe for this. I'm not sure his best position is as a playmaker, though. I think he's a scorer. Like I think his number one thing is like him scoring goals. Yeah, like I don't. No, but it's not even that he shoots the puck, Rock. He's a great shot, good one-timer. He could shoot from a lot of angles and beat goalies that way. Goes to the net hard. He follows up plays really well. He has some really good goal-scoring instincts. And I'm, again, a lot of the scouting reports I've read, this elite playmaker and that, or they compare him to Jack Hughes, for instance. I'm like, I don't know if that's really what he is. I think he's more a score-first guy who has some ability to, play make as well. He's not a one-trick pony.
But I think he might be pretty elite at both, honestly.
He's quite good at both. I mean, I have him in the top 4 now. Obviously, he's a high-end player.
He's gonna be really relieved to hear that.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he listens. Thank you, James. But also the other thing is too, I really like that I've seen kind of it has been some improvement, moving as the years gone on. That's very, very good to see. So again, I moved him up. Again, I'd still do worry. I will say a little bit about his size. I mean, we've, again, if people are perceiving Misa to be small, he's like 3 inches smaller than him. So I don't like So like that's a little tougher for me maybe at the top of the draft, and maybe that's a personal bias where I'll have trouble putting him, as the top maybe one or two guys. But I mean, there's improvement here. There is an elite skill set. There's a highlight reel skill set. Entertainment aspect of this player too, I think, is quite high. I mean, whatever team he's on, I think they're going to really like what they see. But again, if I think he's a goal scorer, I mean, he's kind of struggled to score in college this year, even though the games I've watched, he's had chances.
He's picked it up lately.
No, he has picked it up lately, but I mean, I think that's probably, I think I would probably call him more of a scorer than maybe again, he's a very good player in a lot of aspects. I just think his top skill might be, again, being a scorer.
Now, you've still taken some issue with the turnovers, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think there's better playmakers in the draft. I don't know. Now, one thing I'll say with him, he can make high-end plays at high speed that some other guys can't.
Right.
The problem is he tries them too often, and they don't.
But he tries them at this level.
Yeah. So again, and you're right. So again, that's something.
Guys change their habits, or like,
exactly. No, you're right, and that's something scouts and that'll have to consider with him. But he does, again. Now, the other thing too, and he's kind of slowed down in the zone. He's almost kind of the opposite of Martone. He's not as good that way. He's much better when he is going at speed, I would say, than he is slowed down.
Well, because when he slows down, that's when the size component comes into it a little bit more, right?
No, it is. It's so he's kind of unique that way. And again, we've talked about it before. The NHL, I don't think as much of the play is on the rush as it is kind of a cycle and maybe a slowed down in zone play. Especially in the playoffs anyway. So that might be, again, something to maybe consider.
But I think he has the ability, I think he has the ability and the skill set to kind of add some dynamic, tight space to his game, right? I think he will learn in time, like when you get to the NHL, it's not going to be every play off the rush blowing by guys. Yeah. He's got the hands, he's got the edges He's a
great skater. He's a very good skater from the position.
I don't see any way that this is not at worst a point a game player. At worst.
Yeah. Now again, I still have questions about him playing center. I mean,
that's fine.
Yeah, like that would be again another question I have. But I mean, I've liked what I've seen. Good job, James. Way to go. Big fan of the show. For a second. Yeah. Sorry, James cut me off there. No, big I mean, I like how he's played. And he's gonna get a big test against Canada, and we'll I mean, I don't know if Canada really has anyone to match up with him or if they will match up with him properly. So he has a chance to have a really big game here in front of a lot of people.
That could be like the most expensive disappointment all of Ottawa spent on those tickets on New Year's. Oh, geez, I'm not confident going into that game at all. But again, Carter George, I'm going to say it again. He stole the U18 gold medal game for Canada. He was unbelievable. Shut out Finland in game 1. I think he's a real deal. I think he's a big game goalie. Look for the Carter George storyline to start taking off. It's going to have to if they want to win this thing. I got to watch Slovakia a couple times. They had some 3 guys who are pretty interesting. Where do you want to start?
Who'd you like best?
I like Chovan the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought he had the most projectable attributes. Big body, goes to the net hard. He plays with some tenacity. He plays with pace. He's got a good motor. Again, the size is there. He's got good hands. He can shoot the puck. He scored the game-winning goal the other night. I think he showed me. I'm gonna have to rewatch the video. You do in person's better because you pick up on some things that you miss, but you see more on video. You can rewatch the shifts and stuff. But I really liked what I saw from him. I thought he was good. I got to see both their games so far. I thought he was quite good in both. He was playing on the third line for them, but he was getting some looks offensively. He was really solid. That's the kind of guy that I would really like maybe in the third or fourth round, you're really happy with a guy like that. I don't know that there's a top 6 forward there, but I think there's a guy that can play in the league.
Yeah. So I rewatched this game from yesterday. I mean, he was actually in on both goals because the first goal he drew a penalty that they ended up having the puck for the next minute, and then they scored off of it. So and it was from a nice kind of, I want to say like a power move kind of to the net that he drew that penalty.
Yeah, he forced the D to
yeah.
either let him get to the net or take the penalty.
Yeah. Which is good to see, because I think one of the things on my scouting report, just the questions I had, his skating's a bit, I want to say it's kind of iffy. His edges could be better right now.
He's
But
heavy
again,
though.
yeah, he's a big, strong guy. I love him as a forechecker, and again, he'll hit guys, but he's pretty relentless on that end. Like, he gets into lanes really well. So, I mean, I do like him as a prospect as well. If I was kind of drafting maybe a little bit lower down, these third and fourth rounds, because, like, again, as I said before, I think this guy can play, in the league. I mean, he might not have the most upside, but there's some skills here that teams are going to like. They're going to like the body, they're going to like the habits that he already has, and they'll kind of just try to hope to develop maybe his skating and maybe a little bit of the offense. But if his skating got a little bit better, it probably would help his offense, because he can shoot the puck a little bit, and there's some offensive ideas there.
Yeah, I agree. I really liked the way he played. Now, him versus next guy pretty much will sum up my feelings on how I typically like to scout guys and the type of guys I gravitate towards. Radivojevic, this defenseman.
Yeah.
He was excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
In both games, he was excellent. Very good with the puck. He defended the rush very well. And then, typical, struggled on the cycle, struggled down low. Now, he battled. He did work hard. He went hard at guys. And that's fine. You like to see it because he's controlling what he can control. But he's just so damn small. He's listed at 5'10". I don't know if he's 5'10". He's probably 5'9". And guys in the NHL, they're all big and strong. And if they're not, then they're super fast and relentless usually, right? So I don't know how he survives defending in the NHL. I question just how elite and dynamic he is with his skating and his offensive play. He could be like, I don't know that I see an Adam Fox or a Lane Hudson here.
Yeah.
I might see more of an Eric Brandstrom on the low end and a Sam Girard maybe on the high end.
Yeah.
And that's a guy that, like, I think he can play in the league. I just don't know that he's going to be dynamic enough offensively for me to want a 5'9" defenseman on my team.
Well, I will say, from watching him, he's one of the more composed defensemen I think I've seen.
No, he was really, really very good both games.
Yeah, especially again because he's been kind of, especially at this level, because I mean, his teams, they're okay, but they're kind of playing opponents that are, for the most part, better than them. Maybe not yesterday.
They're right in the middle. They're right in the middle.
So, like, it is noteworthy that he's playing in this tournament and has good composure. The game's not too fast for him. Like, he thinks the game really well.
Yep.
It's just, so I kind of agree with you. Like, so speaking of the last pair, like Chovan, right? Like, we're like, well, but he's got a bigger body. So, like, if he improves, his skating can improve, for instance, or his, maybe his offensive playmaking can improve a bit. Like, you can't really improve your height unless he grows, which is, we don't know, like, if that would actually happen. It's very rare that happens. Now, it has happened, but it's very rare. So
now, I don't know, and I have no idea if this is true or not, but I just was told that I guess his dad's a little bit of a taller guy. So maybe there is room, but that could be completely false. I have no clue, but just to get to your point, that there is a chance that he could grow. But if he's measuring the seam at the end of the season this year as he did at the beginning, you're kind of cooked there. So I don't know that. And maybe his, like, I didn't feel in his draft year that Sandin Pellikka had the truly elite dynamic ability. I thought he might end up being, again, more in that Brandstrom role, or the other guy that Dallas took early, the smaller D. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. It was a couple years before Brandstrom. but more in that role. But then now Pelika's looks like one of the top defensemen at the tournament. He does look like he has that dynamic ability. So you don't know, like, and I said this I was getting into a little comment thing back and forth with a guy on Twitter, and I even said, I'm like, if there is a guy that I'm going to be wrong about, it'll be a small defenseman.
Yeah. Well,
I
he might be him. But I mean, the fact that you think that he can play in the league already, he's already impressed you, I think.
He did. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I saw a lot more out of him than I thought I was going to. I thought I was
Yeah.
going to see more of a one-dimensional, typical small skill guy that can't defend, but he defended the rush very well. He uses his feet well. He uses positioning well. He wasn't scared to go in the corners. He wasn't scared to battle in front of the net. But that said, he is always going to be limited by his body in his defensive zone, and he may always struggle in that area.
Yeah. And there's nothing he can really do about it. I think that's
Oh,
that's the
fuck all he
problem,
can
right?
do.
Like you can't really improve that. It's
Now, like
just
I'll say, like last year, Kiviharju was the guy that had this mold that ever. This guy's way better than Kiviharju. Way better.
fair enough.
Way better. Way better defensively, and a better skater. And I don't know that he necessarily has Kiviharju's offensive ozone playmaking abilities at the same age, but that'd be the only thing. I like everything about this guy's game much better. Kiviharju was a fifth rounder. He was supposed to be a first. He was never going to be a first.
Yeah.
And I get a lot of sense with this guy. There's a lot of he's a first. I don't know that he is. He's 5'9".
Too I'll say it. I think he's too small to be a first. I don't think that's
Yes,
yeah.
yes, dude. Cole Hudson wasn't a first last year.
Yeah.
This guy, and he's well, now that Schaefer's gone, or might be the best defenseman in the tournament.
Yeah.
So, and he wasn't a first rounder. Lane
Yeah.
Hudson was the most dynamic player in that U.S. program since Adam Fox,
Small
and
body. Yeah.
he wasn't a first rounder, right? So, like,
But
I
But
think
there's
there needs to
another good
be,
example, right? Like he's in the NHL, and I think he's performing pretty well offensively. Still has some trouble when the puck gets in the D zone and on the cycle and stuff
yes,
like that, right?
but he's a rookie, and he's
Yeah.
going to be able to put up the offensive numbers that make you okay with the defensive
Yep.
problems, right? So that's the thing. If you're going to have the defensive problems because you're small, that's okay. Like, it's not great, but it's fine. But you have to make up for that plus with the offense, right? So that's
Yeah.
my thing with him. I don't know that he is Hudson brother or Adam Fox territory where you can be that small and get away with it. But I certainly do like him better than a guy like Kiviharju, who I had no time for last year.
Well, it sounds like he's made an impression on you, so that's good. At least he's definitely got positive vibes on him anyway.
Yeah, I'll say, like, and again, I don't think he's that Makar Hughes elite level player. I don't see that. But I liked him a lot more than I thought I was going to, and I'm going to give him a little bit more credit, at least as a rush defender, than I thought I was going to see. So he had a good 2 games. I still question where he slots into a, and I don't again, and we'll have this conversation a million times because it's a point that I make all the time. It's like, guys like, oh, well, if he's going to play in the league, he's a good pick. I'm like, that's fine, but some guys play in the league because they're talented enough to play in the league, and then there's guys that can fit into a Stanley Cup winning lineup,
Yeah.
right? And you only have so many small guys, blah 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 blah.
There's guys that fill out the organization, right? Like it's not
Right.
yeah.
So for me, am I looking at a first rounder? No, this guy's not going to be on my first round under any circumstances. But do I have time for him somewhere after the 50th pick? I'm a little more open minded than I thought I might be.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
And who was the third guy?
That's about as much as I'm going to like a 5'9" defenseman.
Yeah. Like I think that's a win for him.
That is a dude. I loved Cole Hudson last year, and I still didn't rank him in my first round. And I love the guy. And I don't like this guy as much as Cole Hudson.
Who was the and the third guy you saw? I'm assuming it was Pozebal.
Yeah, very good, very smart. He's a kind of player, he doesn't necessarily stand out, but when you watch him, he's quite impressive. I think he played a pretty good two-way game. He was always seemed to be kind of around the play, which is a good sign. 5'10", dude.
Yeah.
5'10", doesn't have elite ability, so I don't like. To me, a good player. I don't want to say he's he played a very good game, and he's going to be a draft pick, and he could make the league, but I don't know what his calling card would be, because he's pretty good at everything.
Yeah.
And guys who are pretty good at everything end up usually being incredible players in the AHL or top players in European leagues, right? Because it's just to play in the NHL, you're either something has to be elite. With that defenseman, I can say his puck moving, that could be the trait that could get him in the league. For Chovan, his size and competitiveness, that's something elite that could get him in the league. The Pozebal guy was probably more well-rounded as a 200-foot player and an all-around effectiveness on the game than either of them.
Yeah.
But at the NHL level, he doesn't, to me, I didn't see that elite quality where, okay, he's going to get into a lineup because of whatever.
Yeah.
So, but good player, played 2 good games. He was good.
Yeah, like when I watched him on video, it was kind of the same thing, right? Like it was kind of like he does a lot of things well. It's just, which things does he do at an elite level, or which ones would translate at like an elite rate.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where, again, you'd like to maybe see some more offense out of him, maybe as the tournament goes on. Because I think that was kind of something I was looking for, is to see what his offensive kind of game would be maybe at this level, because he is playing pro and he's been doing decently. I mean, he's put up some points there.
I also don't want to overjudge
Yeah.
guys in a short tournaments
Yep.
with line mates they're not used to playing with too, right? Like
Yep.
the World Juniors are great because it gives these guys a stage to show for everybody. But at the same time, it is a short tournament, and judging them off these 3 games exclusively would be a mistake.
Well, and you got to see him in person though, right? Like this is a guy you wouldn't be able to see in person.
Oh yeah, right? I can only evaluate what I see.
Yeah,
but no, I liked him. He's definitely a draft pick. Like he's definitely a guy that will be in the somewhere, probably for me somewhere in the middle rounds. I don't see a guy.
Well, he's been, again, I've seen him floated late first, even into the second, which again I don't know. But again, I've seen his name at least bandied about.
No, like who? Like that was my also like counterpoint myself here.
Yeah.
That was also my first time seeing him. Maybe I thought he played well, like generally, but maybe that wasn't his best game. Maybe he didn't think he played well, and I caught him on a bad day. You know what I mean? So,
which is why we try to watch these guys more than once before we make some judgments on them, right?
Oh, of course. And it's like, I've seen his name higher on lists as well. So he's a guy that we're obviously going to watch again. But it was good to see him in person. I'm going to get to see Slovakia one more time live, probably. If I had to rank the 3 guys, I would probably go Chovan and then the defense Radivojevic and then Pozebal.
Interesting.
But that order might change the later I get in the draft.
Yeah.
Because if I'm getting into the 4th round, if all 3 are still there, I'm probably taking that defenseman.
Yeah, just want to take a
because
shot.
At that point, I'll waste a 4th round pick taking a swing on a guy like that, and completely knowing that even I don't maybe think that he might pan out, but if he does, you know what I mean? That's a really good. That's a home run for the organization. Whereas if I'm maybe in the later 2nd round or the early 3rd, and I'm more concerned about getting NHL games out of the pick, I might take the Chovan first.
Yeah, organizational depth, right?
I think they're all. I honestly, I could see a team having them in any order. They're all guys who should be somewhere between the 2nd and 5th round, I think.
Okay. So I guess the last guy we're going to review, or at least I've watched, watched the last game for him, and kind of watched this pre-tournament there, is Logan Hensler. And I know your prediction was that he was going to fall down in the tournament or move down the board.
Yeah, I might have got that one wrong.
For your tweet. Well, he's looked really good.
Yeah, he has.
I mean, so again, I've always really liked his skating. I think his skating is elite. I mean, you could argue again, it's him and Schaefer with their skating. I think Hendler's a better skater than him, and that's really not putting Schaefer down at all. I just think he's that good. He's that good a skater. Now there's again, we're talking about the other parts of the game, not this. The other parts of the game, not the same, obviously. But I mean, we're watching. Again, we're watching him play. We were wondering if he was even going to play much. He was on the second pair. He's playing a regular shift, and I mean, the rush defense was there. At this level, he actually looked more physical, which was something that we were a little bit worried about at the college level just because he was playing older guys. I thought that was noteworthy that he actually was able to maybe outmuscle more of his opponents at this level. I found that to be quite, a good thing to see. His breakout passing is really good. Like we talked, like I know some people are maybe a little bit worried about his offense or, he doesn't have the highest end offensive vision, but he makes a lot of really good rush passes, on the breakout or even in the neutral zone. He makes some and they're all on the tape. They're in stride. Like
so Cole Hudson is he's playing with Hudson, right?
Yeah.
And that is probably the perfect guy to pair him with and the perfect type of player. Like where I think Hensler is going to shine is where he is tasked with making, getting the retrievals, making the first pass, making the breakout, and then more or less playing a pretty responsible two-way game, but having the skating and the puck skills to play with maybe your most talented defenseman on a play zone, right? That's a valuable guy to have.
So you are right that he's been retrieving a lot of pucks, and he's done a pretty good job at that. Because again, in college, there were some instances where he was kind of, again, earlier in the year, getting out muscled or, kind of maybe straying away from contact. Wasn't here. It was definitely looked improved. But even in the offensive zone, I thought he made some, he fires a hard pass around the offensive zone. Now, maybe he's not firing seam passes around, but I mean, he moves the puck fine.
Yes.
He makes good decisions when he's pinching. Nothing.
Hannafin.
Yeah, like he does a lot of good things. So
he's a good player.
Yeah, I might have to move him up the board because again, he's a 6'2", guy who can skate, and he's a right-hand shot. Like I don't know how.
I don't. He's probably not getting out of the top 10.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't see how you can pass a guy when he can skate like that. And the other thing is too, when he does screw up, he's such a good skater that he can just get himself back into position pretty quickly. It's kind of, again, not the same guy, but if you remember like Erik Karlsson back in the day, he made a mistake, he could just kind of wheel back into position because he was a good skater.
Until he got his ankle chopped off.
Well, whatever. We'll talk about that later. But the point is that like even mistakes that he makes, he has an ability to fix them because it's so elite. Like that skating skill is so elite.
Yes, he can recover very well.
Yeah. And so, whereas maybe we talked again, maybe these other, again, you talked about Merca, we have Filler, these bigger D, different types of defensemen. We find them to be very effective. But I don't
can skate.
Yeah, but he can skate. I get it. It's just he wouldn't have that ability to look. He doesn't have the skate skill that he does. Merca has other skills that are better, but it's better anyway. Okay, I don't think so, but nonetheless, he might be. We'll see.
Dude, I'm on Team Merca all day long.
The point is, Hensler's look great. I'm happy that he's looked great. I might have to move him up the board, and I had him higher. No, I think we had him around the same spot. I think I had him like 8 or 9. So, yeah. So, like, I mean, it's going to kind of be a decision of what teams want with their defensemen, I think, kind of after the top 4 or 5. If they want that really smooth skating guy that they think maybe has a little bit more offensive upside, or maybe, they like skating as a skill better, their organizational philosophy, or they want, that, the big mammoth kind of defenseman that can, also skate pretty well, maybe not put up the offensive points, but maybe that's their kind of their organizational philosophy, more physical kind of defender.
Okay, you ready? Have you watched Sweden? Have you watched Sweden at all yet?
I haven't been able to. No.
Shit. Okay. I was gonna say Victor Eklund or Porter Martone.
Oh, I'm going to review Eklund today, and then I'll give you an answer to that.
He was. I watched their first game against Slovakia. He wasn't. I would say it's one of the quieter games I've seen from him, but he had a few instances of like really high end ability, and the skating and the effort level was there the whole game, which are his his calling cards. And the second game he scored a really, really nice goal in the second game, just going to the front of the net with his stick down as he does. I think there might
do
be.
you think that's a conversation now?
Well, fuck, man. Like, one guy looks really good and one guy looks not so good, and they're both 06s. So,
Well,
like,
why don't we wait to the end of the tournament, then we can kind of have that discussion with that if we want. Maybe we'll release our rankings post tournament.
well, yeah, we're going to, but I think, okay, I would say this. I think there's more of a. I think Eklund is closer to Martone than Martone is to Schaefer.
Okay,
I'll put it that way.
Put that one.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. Schaefer and the two centermen, I think Misa and Hagens are now pulling away.
I still have Desnoyers third, by the way.
Yeah, well, you're wrong. So
I'm not wrong.
you think he's the third best player in this whole class?
Yes.
All right. Well, we're just gonna get you a QMJHL sponsorship so you can peddle that somewhere else. I don't know. I'm just kidding. No, Desnoyers he's a really good player. I think he's a top 5 pick still. I don't think he's
leading the queue in points per game. Has the most even strength points. He's played like 6 less games than everybody.
I don't think he has the high end ability of Misa or Hagens, and I think that keeps him out of the top 3.
It might. But
Those three guys are just more naturally skilled than everybody else.
I think Desnoyers his whole game, everything's high end elite. Like it's maybe I'm biased that way. I probably am, but I mean his 2-way game's great. Like everything's great.
Well, we're gonna have to go to a Moncton game, I think.
Yeah.
Before the year's out.
Whereas like now with Misa, like I have Misa ranked ahead of him. I think Misa's been really impressive. I think his offensive skill. I haven't seen anything really from him that would worry me. Just with Hagens, I've seen a couple things that I'm just again a little bit more hesitant on. That's all. And the size factor, I think, plays into it a little bit for me too.
No, that's fair. Well, I think that's good here. A couple recap of the first 2 days. We got our Canada panic out of the way, and
it's not panic even. It's just like frustration.
dude, I think if you don't think every Canada fan has a little panic right now,
oh, they do.
Well, that's right.
I mean, for me, like I'm just like, why are we even in this spot? It just shouldn't be there.
Oh, we can't get going on here. We can't get going again.
No.
That's good. Okay, thanks for tuning in. We're gonna have another World Junior episode here at some point. Looking like tomorrow we might have a pretty fun special episode that I might be able to do live at Lansdowne, right near the Group B action tomorrow afternoon. So I'll be at the Jackassers at Lansdowne tomorrow afternoon, probably around probably from 2:30 till about 4:30. Might have a pretty special guest on as well. And yeah, if you're in the area, stop by and then come say hi. Boys,
we'll talk to you later.
I'll talk to you later on. Cheers.
All right.